Greetings petrolheads, welcome back to Automation, the car company tycoon game. Today I'm gonna show you a car that I've built off camera already, and it is the CS150. Athena CS150. This is of course the next car in the campaign that we're gonna be looking at. It is a small coupe. It is quite a bit smaller than the other coupe that I've built before, although probably not that much smaller overall, but it has quite a significantly shorter wheelbase, and it is different from a lot of other cars in a couple of areas. First of all, this is a space frame, because it offered the best compromise of durability, comfort, and then also costs. Actually, no, it's the most expensive option here. Durability, comfort, and what's the other thing? Spooniness, perhaps? Out of these three, or weight, yeah, weight was the third thing. Out of these three options. And even though we have a steel space frame and also steel panels, this car is still pretty light because it's so small. And then we have double wishbones front and rear as well, because, well, let's face it, this car has one obvious rival, and that is the Jaguar E-Type. And admittedly, this doesn't look quite as good as the E-Type, but then again, which early 60s car does? Like, as far as looks go, the E-Type is just in a class of its own, in my opinion, and in a lot of other people's opinion. And of course, this is a rear-wheel drive. Like, what else would it be? And the engine is another interesting point here. It is not only the first V12 that we're building here. It is also the first engine that uses a direct-acting OHC in our lineup. And I decided to go for this over the push rods because direct acting OHC is almost as cheap and almost as reliable as a push rod, but it does make for better power and torque and also for better efficiency, while still being quite a bit cheaper to produce than an overhead or even a dual overhead cam setup. And it has aluminum block and head materials to keep the engine light, or relatively light, and that is so that, well, it's basically for a better weight distribution. Let's cut it short here. We got very good internals here and some quality as well. That is to ensure that it's really reliable. A 30.3 is not a bad score at all as far as reliability goes in 1961. You can see that everything is green here and no issues whatsoever with reliability, and that's great. So we're making 261 horsepower, and that is a comparable amount to the Jaguar E-Type's 265. That car, on the other hand, only had a 3.8 liter inline six. I don't know how they managed to get that much power out of a 3.8 liter inline six in 1961, but it also wasn't the most reliable engine. Let me tell you that much. So that's definitely one area where the Athena is going to have an advantage, is reliability. And so we have a 4-speed manual gearbox, open diff, nothing too special here. Sports tires, well, whatever that means for 1961, because like, sports tires from the early 60s are probably overall worse than today's, normal tires as far as grip goes and whatnot. I would assume, at least, because we made some great progress in the past over 50 years. I would say. And we have solid discs front and rear. There's a little bit of brake fade, but you're never really gonna get rid of that unless you have more pistons, bigger size and whatnot. But that's not an option here. No under tray. A little bit more than is necessary. Cooling airflow again to buff reliability a little bit. 4 seats just like the E-Type. Handmade interior unlike the E-Type. Phonograph as well. Advanced 60 safety. Again, like, that's what? Advanced 60 safety, seatbelts for all seats, perhaps? Is that what that would include? Progressive springs for more drivability and comfort than the standard spring. That does make a reasonable or a noticeable difference. And then tweak the suspension so that we have maximum possible drivability. Overall, the drivability is really good on this thing, 35, and that is with 36% wheel spin. Also, acceleration is on par with the E-Type, which does it in 7.6, this one in 7.7. Top speed is lower though. The E-Type would do 150 miles an hour, which is like 244 or something kilometers an hour, 243. And yeah, well, I don't really know why the top speed is so much lower in this one. I mean, I guess probably some aerodynamic quality could solve that problem. A semi-clad under tray would help as well. A couple of extra kilometers per hour anyway, but not that much. Anyway, top speed is not this thing's priority anyways. It is more of a GT car. It is a long distance traveling, well, GT car, a Gran Turismo car, that also happens to be pretty quick and very powerful. As such, we are doing very well in like GT Premium, which is actually what I was aiming for. Obviously also Super and Hypercar category, because you gotta think back into the early 60s market in Europe, which is the market this would compete in. Obviously it was a different story in America, but let's talk about Europe for now. In Europe, people were driving cars like the Volkswagen Beetle with like 34 horsepower. They were driving Fiat 500s with 15 horsepower, and then the E-Type comes along with 265 horsepower. That was just out of this world. I mean, 265 horsepower in Europe at that in that time. I mean, even for America, it would be kind of a lot, given that the E-Type was lighter than pretty much, well, most cars anyway produced in America at that point. But yeah, that sort of power and speed was something entirely new, or something very fresh and exclusive back then. Well, today 150 miles an hour, any basic BMW is limited to 155, so it's not meaning very much anymore these days. Right, so I did mess with these tabs as well. Chose him for the interior and entertainment. He's best there. I'm gonna put the regular CS150 into full production, I guess, because we're not gonna build massive amounts of them anyway. Just like the E-Type. I mean, how many E-Types were actually? So I should have looked that figure up, but it can't have been more than a few thousand. And then the CS150 Roadster, which is basically identical to the coupe, other than it has a different set of headlights here, because it doesn't have like the holes in the body to fit the headlights in. It's a just flat body here, and therefore these looked better on it, I think. And then also, because we have more weight over the rear end, because of that's where the roof is gonna go, it has slightly stiffer rear springs. And this one's going to be limited production. As you can see, on both models we have more like extra reliability, very efficient production, and some funding as well. Where are we getting the money from? Well, the first couple of cars, especially now the SM1, did decently well and on the market, and we were able to eke out a half decent loan from a bank that we trust in, and that apparently also trusts in us. So we can fund this one, and we also got another car coming up in 1963 that will probably, or the production of which, or the development of which, will probably benefit from that loan. So, engine as well here. Then we have a small factory for the car, and also a tiny factory for the engine, because this is probably going to be the only car we use this V12 in. Although I would like it to be a little bit more usable, a little bit, or I would like to put more cars that use this engine so we can make it a little bit more efficient money-wise. But of course, with a 5-liter V12, this is no slouch. Then there's the question of price. This one, the coupe, would cost, well, that's basically 30 grand in today's money, and that is, I can tell you exactly how much that is. Basically in 1961, that's about $3,800. And with the exchange, like Jeremy Clarkson said in one of his videos that in 1961, when the E-Type came out, it was 2,000 pounds. With the exchange rates back then, even with that, the Jaguar is probably going to be less expensive than this, which might become a problem. But also this has a couple of things that the Jag doesn't. Chief amongst which is, of course, the handmade interior and the advanced safety that this has. I also don't think the Jag had power steering, but Athena obviously is going to be, it's going to be one of the first to have that in their car. Think of this brand as sort of like a more premium version of Volvo, a more like it is a premium or a very luxurious company, or we build very luxurious cars that are also very safe, that just protect you well, and that will be pretty reliable overall. That's what this brand will stand for. And yeah, so with that, I also, obviously this car is going to be more prestigious, more desirable, if you will, with its V12 engine that the Jag is with the inline 6. Then again, of course, a big factor of desirability is a car's looks, and there the Jag has the edge, I guess. So I don't know, do you think people would buy this car? And also, do you think they would buy the coupe or the Roadster? Would we sell all 500 of these Roadsters? Yes or no? And well, I guess yeah, there's a couple of questions left here about this car. How well would it do in real life? I have no idea. And then the CS150 Roadster, I'm still I didn't mention this, but this would be about, well, slightly above $4,000 in 1961 on the American market. How much would it be in Europe? I have no idea, but you can probably, because back then every European country had its own currency. It's pretty hard to say like how much it would be in each country, because you gotta do all that conversion stuff. But yeah, you have a rough idea of how much it would cost. So yeah, now's your time to leave your feedback. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Leave a like or a comment if you did. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.